when you look at that, we got up into the 1940s here before trading off in the last 24 hours. So that's a high mark since 2016. Hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics. And some good news for all of the silver investors out there, because while today is Thursday, yesterday, silver hit its high mark since 2016, which I think is pretty darn exciting news. And today, that is exactly what we will dig into. Interesting. It happened in the evening after the close. You can see the red line is July 15th, which indeed was Wednesday. And so it was following well, if we'd gone back a day earlier, if they still had that on here, it was interesting. I believe it was the Monday rally. You had silver get right to about that 1935 mark, and then it took a plummet down, kind of like you see in the green line, which is today's chart. So a little bit of a late day sell-off. But it was interesting because at one point it hit me last night while I'm looking at the chart and seeing that as it hit a new high for the week. We're past where we got to last September. I think silver, it did get over $19, maybe $19.05, somewhere around, or maybe it was $19.20. It was over $19, but this is a higher level than we saw last year. And really back to 2016, because you can see, here's the chart of 2016. And then in August and September, this is Kitco data. You see that a 2071 price on August 2nd. And then really by the end of the year, it had started declining to $16. Then some volatility in 2017, but stayed below 19. And I love it, 2018, almost flat as a board. And 2019, again, silver had that rally, got, let's see what they have, 1930, let's call it, is the high in September 4th. So now to see basically, let's see, I guess this marks the closing price. So 1933 versus 1930. So a higher close than last year. And again, when you look at that, we got up into the 1940s here before trading off in the last 24 hours. So that's a high mark since 2016. I think we're seeing some historic things happening. Let's take a look at the gold price. Interesting one here. You see gold was up as high as 1815 then. I love how these prices always just at the exact same time. I mean, I understand there's correlation between gold and silver, but you know, here again at almost the exact same time, both just completely sell off, and gold happens to sell off then flat as a board, coincidentally right under the 1800 handle. Maybe one day we'll get some comment from the Department of Justice. Would love to know what they think about that. But again, gold at 1800, only about $100 off from its all-time high in 2011 when it got. Actually, let's check exactly. I still remember. Ooh, and we got another fun chart we can look up here. So let's get the 2011 data and take a look what Kitco has it at, where that early beginning of September. So you see that 1895. But again, that's the closing price. And this is actually a little piece of history we can look up here. I still remember this one like it was yesterday. In fact, I'd just come back from Europe and I was in a hotel room in San Diego. I was going out. I had met Rick Rule before then, but was going out to talk with him. So I was getting ready to leave Wall Street. And here you see, this was Labor Day weekend. Gold gets up there right to 1920. I believe I've seen highs of 1921. Then in this period here, again, this is after the U.S. gets downgraded by S&P. The debt ceiling debacle is going on. And you have the Swiss announce. So remember, because I got this email I was massively long options on GLD and SLV. So factor that in. I thought I was home free financially for life back then, because had the prices continued to rise, that would have been financially beneficial given what I had on. Yet here, when the Swiss franc was starting to be looked at as the last standing safe haven, there's an email that the Wall Street Journal sends out saying they're going to peg to the euro, essentially saying we're worried our currency is going to rise. So the last safe haven outside of gold, and my whole reason I bring this up is because I remember thinking, geez, are we about to see gold go through 2000? Yet instead, you saw it pummeled in the middle of the night, down almost $40, then goes back up. But by the time people wake up, right after the supposed other last safe haven, and if you think it's unusual how the safe haven changes so quickly, frankly, I'd agree. But anyway, you see this is throughout the day and then drops again in the middle of the night, on the 7th. So basically, from 1920, and then you were under 18, so $120 lower at a time when fundamentally you would think it would be $120 higher. That was really what got me more into, I think that was around when I started reading Ted Butler, focusing more on the manipulation. I'd been working for 6 years as an option trader by then. And I was thinking, I couldn't explain it. And that's where the idea for the book came from, where to me, it was either this happened because they sold a lot of paper contracts in the middle of the night, the time when the liquidity was thinnest. And if that is the case, then, at some point that leverage has to be unwound. And I would think it'd be higher levels than this. I think we're about to find out. So I also wonder, gee, were we close to seeing the dollar go off the rails back in 2011? And if my theory is correct, were it not for the paper manipulation, that maybe what we're about to see now was close to happening then. I think it's closer than most think. I don't know. Maybe one day we'll be able to find out. Certainly will be a fun thing to research and follow up with here. Although, speaking of which, and exciting reasons why I think that we may go over that, is that here is the delivery reports, and we see in the COMEX futures, there was another chunk added yesterday. So this number keeps growing. It had been around 13,000 now because, as you can see here, looks like HSBC issuing 622 contracts. So total of 752 yesterday, and 13 million ounces, 13,000 contracts was 65 million ounces. Now this is getting closer to 15,000, which would be 75. Let's call this 73 to 74-ish million ounces. I mean, 1 or 2,000 more. Like, this is almost 5 million ounces. I guess it'd be 75% of that. So, another 3 million ounces added in. Numbers starting to add up. And let's take a look back up at the gold numbers. And I think we have August, typical delivery month, coming up. So it will be interesting to see how that shapes up. Although before we get there, I got an email because I talked about this, although maybe a few people did not hear it yet. But this is another interesting one, the platinum futures. And here are the delivery amounts. This, so about a week ago, was 2,500. And look at how small these other months are, even, 431 or 425, 45. And here, you're 8x, 8x that. And that's still growing. So similar with palladium, not quite. So here's palladium, and you have 203, which is bigger, 8x again. I guess maybe not entirely dissimilar. So And then let's take a look at the gold numbers. Where is gold? There's copper. Not much happening in copper, it doesn't appear. But here, another 7,500 contracts. And we'll see what happens in August there. Um, the only counter argument I hear against calling this a run on the COMEX is that people think the COMEX data is completely fraudulent and no metal's moving anywhere, which I think is reasonable to wonder. But I mean, it's like when you're either falsifying the data or you're showing stunning deliveries, make of that what you will. To me, when you see these things changing, like with the JP Morgan contracts, whatever the change is, I mean, at least there's some movement finally. And then when we factor in the other things happening in the world and that the price is rising, here you have from Steve St. Angelo, total Mexico and Peru monthly silver mine production. You can see it dropped off a cliff in April. Now, a lot of these mines have opened back up, but you do have second wave of COVID. Even hopefully they'll stay open. If you have more closings, then you can expect more mine shutdowns. Here we have an article from Dave Kranzler covering Alex Mooney, who introduced a bill, the first true audit of gold in more than 65 years, a full assay, audit of all gold reserves, analysis of sufficiency of the measures taken to ensure the security, full accounting of sales, full accounting of all gold. Now, let's see, a little ominous ending there by Dave. We'll leave that alone. Will Alex Mooney be given a full audit? I guess mathematically or from a probability standpoint, you'd likely think no. Yet I think the degree to which, Ron Paul, maybe he didn't get an audit, but look at how many people's eyes have been opened from that. So I think anything along those lines is good that brings attention on some of these things where, and I think you put the truth out there, and then whether the government actually responds or not. You do it enough times, though, and then sometimes things play out in unexpected ways. I've certainly been encouraged by the response to the big silver short. I don't know that's going to end the manipulation, but I think a lot of people are benefiting from that. They're expressing that, and to the degree that reminds me of the scene with Donald Sutherland in the movie JFK, where Kevin Costner goes and meets him by the Washington Monument. But in either case, the Donald Sutherland's character is saying, just get out there, make some arrests, cause a little attention. And I do think there's benefit to that, not, in just trying to antagonize people, but when you see, I guess, that boundary of not dwelling in the negative, yet there maybe is a time where you stand up and say, this is just what I feel is right. So I appreciate that Alex Mooney is doing that because more people's eyes will be opened. Similarly, a fun project, I'm getting there. I don't know when it will be ready, but some of you are familiar with Veritasium. I've had Reggie Middleton on the show. Sure looked like he got railroaded by the SEC from what I saw. And someone put up a petition basically stating the case, and people were able to sign that if they supported that. And, did that get the SEC to do anything? Maybe not. Yet I'm in the middle of writing and editing a petition that says JP Morgan, now labeled as a criminal enterprise. I mean, they've been, if you ever read JP Madoff, a great book about how JP Morgan was Madoff's sole banker, which my understanding is that in the way those types of deals are typically done is quite uncommon. Usually there's a syndicate. Helen Chapman did an incredible job of mapping out about 200 pages of JP Morgan felonies. I mean, you would think any other organization, if you or I did any of those things, we'd have long ago been out of business. But even if you wanted to give them the political, well, you can't have the banks fail, can we at least say that JP Morgan should not be able to trade gold and silver? And that is what my petition will be for. So you're welcome to sign and share it if you like when it's ready. No pressure or obligation. But now, quick mining news. A couple companies that you've heard plenty about on this show recently, Viszla and First Majestic. And joining me now to break down some recent news is Rob Keens of goldsilverpros.com. Rob Keens, Gold Silver Pros, thanks for joining me. And maybe you could walk us through some of these recent announcements from Viszla.
Yeah, Viszla is just knocking it out of the ballpark out of the last 3 weeks. You can see here on June 24th, they have this great drill result of 1,544 grams per ton silver, which is phenomenal, over 8.2 meters. And what that means is over an 8.2 meter section of their strike that they're drilling, they found this result. That's a really, really good result. If you scroll down a little bit into this first section, it's MP 2002. They're talking about the equivalent, silver equivalent. So they're adding the grams per ton silver and the grams per ton gold. If you look at the grams per ton gold, 1106, I mean, that's basically 10 times what you need to make an economic gold mine. And they're throwing that in as a silver equivalent. That tells you how good the silver is. So it's a really, really good result. And they followed that up, if you go to the next tab, Chris, with an even better number. And I think this is why the stock is spiking and people have gotten so excited about Viszla. Almost 3,000 grams per ton silver and 107.9 grams per ton gold. In today's numbers on a gold mine, the 107.9 grams per ton gold would be considered a bonanza number. And so would the 3,000 grams per ton silver. They're both great. And they got them in the same drill result over 3.7 meters. So they continue to hit, they're on strike with the resource. They continue to hit resource. And that's what's gotten people so excited about the company. And that's allowed them to get some new financing. I think we'll look at that one next. They recently announced a $25 million bought deal private placement. This is private money coming in, seeing these drill results, seeing all the news around Viszla since earlier this year when you and I were at Metals Investor Forum. And when you get these kind of drill results, you're going to get the money coming in. What that does is it gives them money to go drill more. And I think we're going to look at that with the next announcement. They're adding another drill rig with this money that they got. And what that drill rig allows them to do is two things. It allows them to drill more of the district they're in to get more results like we're seeing, but it also allows them to put more holes in the ground closer together. And you get a better idea for what the overall deposit's going to look like. The more drill holes you put in the ground per square meter or per square kilometer, whatever you want, that gives you a higher level of confidence that they're going to have the resource. They know exactly where it is. They're not going to waste time basically taking rock out of the ground that's not going to be profitable for them. Yep. So this is really good news. It looks like Viszla is going to be another success story in silver. Definitely a stock to watch out for. They kind of came out of nowhere this year, but I think it's going to be one of the Cinderellas of 2020 in the silver sector.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, keeping folks covered. And also, we did have earnings from First Majestic yesterday. Mm-hmm. And any comments on anything we saw here?
Yeah, they're doing really well. Of course, the silver price is up over 19 bucks, and that's what First Majestic needs. They were stockpiling silver when it was down and anywhere $11 to $17. Keith Neumeyer said, hey, we're not going to sell that gold. We're going to hold it. And they ran their operations really tight. Now that the silver price is above the cost of mining for many of their mines, they're going to do very, very well. For every dollar that silver goes up over where it's at right now in the $19 range is just pure profit for First Majestic at this point. And I wrote an article a couple of years ago, if we see silver hit 20 again like we did in 2016, First Majestic's going to print money, and I think that's what's going to happen. So for those of you who bought into First Majestic when it was cheaper, when it was a bargain the last couple of years, congratulations. You hit the bonanza, you're going to do very well First Majestic going forward, because I don't think the silver price is going to fall. It could pull back a little bit. That's normal in the futures markets, but I don't think it's going to stay back. I think it's going to hit past 20. Of course, we'll have to see what happens in the economy, but I think it's going to go past 20. It wouldn't surprise me to see silver $25 this year, and at silver $25, you're looking maybe a 75% to 100% increase in the First Majestic price from what you saw last year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Again, I had a note the other day. We played a clip of Keith Neumeyer talking about how they didn't sell silver under 17. Mm-hmm. Here you see company held 970,000 ounces of silver in inventory in anticipation of higher prices. So, Rob, thanks for joining me. Real quick, could you mention you got a conference coming up in about 2 weeks and let folks know about that?
Yeah, it's the North American Monetary Metals Summit. We're going to be talking precious metals. We'll be talking the economy. I've got a great slate of presenters at this conference, including yours truly, Chris Marcus from Arcadia Economics will be there. We've got David Morgan as keynoting. Happy to have people come and register. If you go to the website goldsilverpros/NAMS 2020, or just click on the NAMS link on goldsilverpros.com, you can register for free. We'd love to see everybody there.
We'll have that in the description below. Thanks for joining me, Rob, and we'll check in with you again soon.
My pleasure. Thanks, Chris.
All right. Thank you, Rob. A few last stories before we wrap up here. I just thought this was fitting. Fed and Treasury disagreement slowed the start of the Main Street lending program. Well, it didn't seem like there were any delays in getting the Wall Street bailout portion of the stimulus, especially since that began actually last September, even months before allegedly Corona even existed. It was even before Bill Gates and Johns Hopkins and the World Health Organization were studying it on a Saturday afternoon in New York, making simulation videos, fake newscasters. Almost looked like they were making a movie similar to that movie Contagion from 2011, which it seems as if we're living the script now. So, and then of course, when things happen, the money flowed out quickly enough, yet here, Main Street, I know some people got the checks. I hope the people that are really being affected like this in some ways are being helped out, and certainly hopefully we can all do what we can and not count on the government for help, but start letting go of the government, let them have their shakedowns and take it elsewhere. And now I think it's becoming a saying. I've heard it was one of my most tweeted comments, buy silver. It's like shorting government. Maybe we'll get those bumper stickers made up. Speaking of buying silver, another week, we're already up to 10.738 million ounces. Take a look at the daily here. Looks like a big chunk 2 days ago. So another week goes by. Looks like we'll have a decent sized addition into the metals holdings. So, man, and I guess another thing I'm getting quite giddy about, the current open interest for the September COMEX futures is about 10 times what has just been delivered. So I think there's a lot of that will be closed out before it becomes delivery time, although we'll see. And you could close out a lot of that and still have new records. I can't wait to find out how it goes. Although keeping you posted in between now and then, you can find it all on arcadiaeconomics.com. If you've not yet seen it, we have a slick new website, which I'm quite grateful for. We got our silver chart working there now. You can watch TV on the front. A bunch new stuff we'll be adding, but you can check that all out there. And in terms of the silver market, if you want to know how any of this is going to play out before it happens, well, obviously, I'll keep you posted on the show each night. But the big silver short is now out in paperback, Kindle version, audio version as well. And I think really what we captured here is playing out now. Fortunately, a lot of people have received their copies and are having a blast reading it. And I know there are some people, especially some of the international ones, they are still getting out there now. I believe the last one has been processed. Everyone who sent in an email, I've either responded about that or am about to do that later tonight. So again, appreciate your patience. If you've not received your book, welcome to check in at chris@arcadiaeconomics.com. Although I should all be getting out there. And I'm glad so many people are enjoying it. I do have a call scheduled tomorrow. Someone I'm talking to, I don't know exactly their role, but we'll be talking about turning it into a movie. And who knows, maybe when the silver price rises, this could all happen sooner than later. But I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're having a great night. Thanks again for joining me on the show. It's a pleasure being here with you each night. So hit that subscription button and the notification bell. And if you'd like to take a look at a company that we had on last night that has the opportunity to get some great leverage to the coming rally, well, just stay tuned because K2 Gold is coming your way now.